disabled it. Just to put us.
One second. All right, you should be able to do video now.
There we are. Okay.
All right.
Okay, real quick. I kind of agree with Andrew, and I think as a buyer's agent, or any agent, we need to really have a lot of knowledge and discipline in this market. I call it disciplining your setbacks. I mean, we're going to have them. I sold real estate when Jimmy Carter was in office, 18% interest rates. So, I mean, we can get through this, but I think it's important, like Andrew said, if you've got these buyers on the fence, this is the time to buy, because based on what's coming, probably higher insurance rates, once the insurance companies get to raise those rates by the end of the year, because I talk to a lot of insurance companies and they go, we're going to have more insurance available, but now they're going to be able to raise those rates. So that spells they're going to make more money. They're going to charge it over to the consumer. And also prices are still rising. So I think this is a good time for them to get into the market and just say, look, we've got to find a piece of property. I'm going to go ahead and prospect for you. And I'm going to show you the different ways to get into a piece of property now versus waiting. Hoping is not a strategy at the end of the year when things are probably going to be more money. I mean, inventory is still tight. It's just not moving that much. So we see the numbers, and that's the other thing. We have the data for you if you need that data. But the bottom line is, think about how I'm going to get these buyers off the fence and to buy now, right now. It's a perfect time for them to do it. A quick example, I know this sounds tough. I had a client with an $800,000 home in Oceanside, had over 200 people in open house, had 20 offers, had 3 buyers come up to our agent, our listing agent, and say, I will dump my buyer's agent if you get me this house. So buyers are desperate. They're out there. And I just think it's a matter of having to work a little more and prospect for those properties and those communities that they're looking in. So now's a great time, I think, to buy and not wait till the end of the year, hoping things are going to get better. I don't know what's going to happen with this election, what's going to happen at the end of the year, but I know right now, hey, I know it's a little tough. Affordability is tough, but 6-7% interest rate, still a great rate, still good. So I encourage you to educate your buyers, and Michelle's going to go over some resources that we have that can hopefully help you guys.
Yes. And so one thing, as Travis had mentioned, talking about resources, and last week we covered, I don't know, for those of you that were on the call, it was Type Rage at One, that NetSheet app. For those of you that were not on the call, please, reach out to us. I'd love to just send that over to you. But that NetSheet app is great for sellers and buyers. It's got so many marketing pieces on there, and it's rent versus buy. You can literally put into those calculations. I don't want to rehash for those of you that were on the call last week, but it's a huge resource. It's #1 NetSheet closing app in the country right now. It's fantastic. So for those of you that are not using one of those, that's a must-have. I mean,
yeah, it's called Palm Agent, and the wonderful thing it does, everybody, it does a cost analysis. Yeah. And you need a cost analysis with these buyers saying, look, this is the bottom line. This is what you're looking at. You get 0 renting right now, 0. At least you're building equity buying now, because the market is still conservatively even going up at 5%. You're still making more money than you would renting a home. So look at Palm Agent. We can send you that app. It's probably the best closing cost app to do rent versus owning and do a cost analysis to people that are walking in on your open house. And you can use that as one of the benefits that you do as a buyer's agent to help them make quick decisions. You can do a closing cost on every property they look at.
And that's not to take away from your escrow or Andrew, as your lender, that those two are go-to solids when you have a deal in play. But the NetSheet app is to just give you more ammunition and add your value, right? That's what this conversation is about today, is how can we add your value as a buyer's agent to make sure that you're more resourceful and have more resources than the one you're up against, right? So just, I can't stress enough.
I'm gonna second that one. So I was using mint.com. That was something that Andrew had turned me on to, and they got rid of that one. That was a great one for calculating how much home you can buy and stuff like that. It was great for a snapshot. And then when we had you on last month and you went over the
Type
app
rate.
there,
Yeah,
I added it in just to see onto my phone, and actually now this is what I'm using.
yeah,
I especially like, you know, because the question's like, what's my payment? What's my payment? It's always what's my payment going to be? There is still rate sensitivity out there, but it is, you know, a lot of what's my payment. So it's been really great with calculating that and the cash to close at the same time. So it's not only here's what your down payment's going to be, but it's also factoring in closing costs based on title and escrow fees and things like that. So they can see what their total cash to close is going to be
Yes.
versus just, you know, here's your down payment. So I've really liked it. It's definitely my go-to now, as far as what I use for calculating payments and things like that. Just on the fly, it takes like 15 seconds, if that, to
Yeah,
even
so
calculate it out. So
so quick. And I'm not from it, so before we leave, if you want to put your information in the captions and before we disconnect, I'll gather it and send it all out to whomever needs it. The other thing is Altos reports. We have Altos, and I understand everybody's from all different counties here. We have Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and San Diego County. For those outside of those counties, we have a different type of CMA that we can access and forward over. That's got some good, not quite the same as these reports, but something very similar. And so just know that that's available for those buyer's agents. So am I okay to share my screen?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, okay. Here we go. Can you see it? Don't you say no.
I'm gonna say no. I got a good shot of your fingers though.
Love it, you guys. At least I'm consistent. Come on.
Alonzo, you got to record her doing this so that you show her every week.
Trust me, he's not gonna be any better, you guys. Okay, it says start broadcast. How about that one? Everything on your screen.
Here it comes.
It's
Here it comes.
happening.
Here it comes.
Yep.
Here it comes. It just takes forever on this new iPad that she has.
It's still going in a circle. Stay with
But
me.
in the meantime, you can hear us, right?
We can totally still hear you.
So
Yeah,
in the
it looks like this
meantime,
is working.
one of the things that I wanted to recommend for you out there, all the agents, is work on getting your designations, you know, as part of your what you're selling to these buyers agents. You know, they have different accredited buyers, CRS, senior residential specialist, certified buyer representative. They have all these designations that I think will give a buyer a peace of mind, you know, saying, hey, you know, this person is really knows the area, knows the community, knows what I'm looking for. And I think you can use that designation as part of your, maybe your signature line, you know, on that. And then one of the other things, as Michelle is trying to get the screen up,
Somebody's gonna yell at me if it comes up, I'm sure.
one of the other things that I wanted to recommend to you is we'll put it in the chat, and that is the buyer and seller guide. In the buyer and seller guide, it has various items in there that you can use as part of your presentation. I recommend you go into it, look at it, help them. It has vesting flyers. It has all those good things that you need to help a buyer make a decision on, like the life of an escrow, inspection, wiring your funds to escrow. These are all the benefits that you get, Mr. Buyer, when you work with us, with me. So those are a couple things that I would, you know, recommend in the chat book. Did you get that up?
Can you see it now?
Well, you had it, and now we got you again. The accredited buyer representation, ABR designation, they are offering for free right now. If you log into your CAR, they sent out a link, I think last week or maybe the week before. I believe we also posted it in our Facebook group. Yes, you have to go through some courses and do some things to get the accreditation, but they're doing it for free right now. And truthfully, if you're going to be asking someone to sign a buyer's rep agreement, it's not a bad thing to lead off with. Look, I am an accredited buyer's representative. So add that into your value proposition when you're beginning to work with a client and you're asking them to sign either a non-exclusive or an exclusive buyer representation agreement with you, because that's it's going to strengthen your value proposition.
And not only that, one of the other services that we will offer for you, we will read the title report for you. Now, even though, you had to accept the counteroffer with whatever choice the seller had for you and the agent, we will read that title report and kind of give you a heads up on any red flags and let you know what you're going to need to clear to close. So
Can you
that's
see
the
that now,
service we're going to
Travis?
offer you.
Yep.
All right.
You can see, like she did it. I definitely did that.
But yeah, that's what I want to make sure you understand. Like when you do get a title report from a competitor, we will read it for you. Just send it over to us saying, hey, I want to make sure there are no red flags for my client, and we will go through it. The thing I will tell you we don't do is we don't read the CC&Rs. That's something that you need to understand. Those are not included in your insurance policy, just FYI. That's an exclusion in your title policies. So make sure if there are CC&Rs, you understand them. They all vary. I lived in a defunct CC&R community where there was nobody to even enforce a CC&R. No, you couldn't put up satellite dishes, paint your door pink, whatever. Nobody was around. So no parking of commercial vehicles. So just let us know when you run into those items that you have concern or that your buyer has concern on. We'll talk to them if we have to, and we'll walk you through that with your client. That's one of the services that we're going to offer you.
And we probably do that 2 to 4 times a week. So please don't hesitate. If even if we're not on that transaction, we're happy to assist. So there you go on that one. Okay, so we can see this, right? The market
We
trend
can
report.
see this. Yes.
Yay! Okay, it's a good start. It's a good start. So you would reach out to us, and we have agents that will use this for prospecting for their current sphere of influence. So they say, hey, I need these 15 zip codes, or if you're working with a certain buyer or whatever your situation, doing an open house, what have you. So these resources can be used as several different resources. There we go.
I want to talk a little bit, everybody, about this particular report. You know how you get buyers and they go, well, I want to make this offer, that offer, and you can actually show them with the data with this report that it's a strong seller's market still
Surprise.
in Carlsbad. Median price $2 million. I mean, it's crazy. But what I'm saying is this is kind of good information if a buyer wants to see what's going on in the neighborhood. They have a price increase here on the average of 3%. The median rent is off the charts, almost $5,000 in rent. But down below in market segment, it has a breakdown on days on market, depending on the square footage, the lot size. It has days on market, like anything around 1.5, 8,000, 10,000 square foot lot, 10 days on the market. That's how fast these properties are selling. So this chart here is kind of cool, gives you a price breakdown. You just tap on that line and you can basically see what the prices are at that time of the year during the month. It's not live, it's not a live link, but it's pretty good information. And this report is available for any zip code in your area that you're working in.
Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and San Diego.
And so you get an idea of what areas you want to work and what kind of information you want to provide these clients with. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I like this report, and like I said, it varies from zip code to county. So we have that available to you anytime. Just let us know ahead of time.
And I believe this emails out once a week. Is that correct? Like on a Monday?
Yeah, we can set it up bi-weekly, weekly, or monthly.
So I think that that's a good snapshot, especially if you're wanting to do any sort of, market update, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly or something like that. Instead of going and trying to gather all this data, you can just have it emailed to you, and then do your video or, take screenshots of it, however you want to present it to your audience. But I do like the information that they put out on this. It's a quick snapshot. It's easy to make content from as well.
And then
And it's
I
great for
wanted to
listing
go over,
presentations too.
it is,
Yeah.
it really is good for listing presentations. So on the buyer's agent side, say you're holding an open house and you're trying to attract as many people to it. You might want to invite 50 homeowners around that particular neighborhood, but we also have data for renters. So we have, I guess, rental data information as to why are they throwing their money away, or why are you paying rent when you can own for $500, $1,000 more a month, you can own a piece of property. And that's something that you can build on with equity. So I would definitely, that's something that Michelle, our assistant Joanna, will provide you with rental data around that open house that you're going to have, so you can do your invite that week. And hopefully you get that invite out like on a Thursday, Wednesday. Don't wait till Friday, Saturday to get the data. Let's work on that now, but we can get you rental data.
And we've got a great
Michelle, you're not sharing the screen again. Well, you're sharing it, but you're sharing a black screen.
face. Okay. Here we go.
You
We'll
had
pull
it on
that
the
up.
90 ways we serve you. There you go.
There we go. Okay, so we've also got, just back onto the open houses, there's a 12-step takedown for those agents. A lot of times you'll hold, we hear this from many agents, you'll hold 5 different open houses. Oh, I only got 2 opportunities, and they're not really having a system that's helping them follow up with some of those open houses. We have a system that can kind of help with that. So if that's something of interest, reach out. That helps. We've had a lot of success with the 12-step takedown for open houses. So
Okay.
it's another resource that we can follow up with offline if it rings your bell. You're probably looking at the 90 ways to serve. This is a
Correct.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, so Travis brought up just a value proposition as you buyers agents out there looking for ways to, show your value. This is a great resource that we, I just had our assistant customize with us, but we can get that over to you as well if that's something that you'd like to utilize. So it's all on one page, but there's just lists a plethora of things that you can show to your clients, added value above and beyond what you're willing to do and able to do to help them see the value.
Yeah. And of course, you're not going to rifle off 90 different things, but maybe you want to group them up just a little bit and hit some key points of what you're offering as the buyer's agent and why it's important for the client to have separate representation or representation at all, should they find a property that they like, and maybe the listing agent doesn't want to do a dual agency or something. So
yes, and we can have this available to you guys as well. So I think it prints on one solid page. So there you go. It's a great resource.
So you can take a couple of those and make your own little PDF to add in or something.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll have our Travis will make sure you have our information as well, and we can get that over to you. But back to collaboration and talking about other resources. Don't forget, we in addition to the data and all of that stuff, leveraging the caravans, the coming soons on the MLS, we all kind of forget about that. But if you have a certain geographical area, really pay attention to those coming soons, the caravans, your relationships, like you've got Andrew, all the different affiliates that are out there. Leverage those relationships, because people know people, and all of that happens to tie in. So
So
I know,
let's
go
talk about
ahead.
the caravans real quick, because I know at least one of our agents on here attends the caravans, maybe two or three. What value do you see in the caravan? I think it's kind of a mystery to a lot of agents, especially if they're 1 or 2 year agents coming in the business and they've never attended one, if they've heard
Right.
about them. But what's the benefit of that?
So the caravan is gonna, you have to, again, if you're just looking at it as, well, I'm just going to see specific inventory, yes, you'll get to see maybe some coming soons or, but I utilize it also as going in there and meeting some of the local realtors and being clear about building some local relationships with the area that you're working in. Also being familiar with some of the communities, when one of your buyers is saying, hey, I want a cul-de-sac with no traffic noise, right? Like what streets in your community or in your area are there, and going to the caravan sometimes and just popping in and seeing these different homes. It's a great opportunity for you to get more acclimated and become more of a real estate expert.
One of the
Yeah.
things I want to tap into, Travis, and this has worked for me, I've done it before as a title rep. You go in to caravan, you find out who the shakers and movers are. You're going to meet them. There are people in there that are listing machines. They work these communities. They get a lot of inventory. You introduce yourself. Basically you work with a lot of buyers in this community. By the way, Travis, can you tell me if you've got anything coming soon that's not on the market now? I'd love to work with you. The only difference though right now, which is kind of difficult, and you've got to get a buyer that's ready and willing to buy now at pretty much what the sellers and these agents want, which is, well, I've got this coming soon, Travis, but my job is to get top dollar for my seller. I said, I don't have a problem with that. If we can come to an arrangement now where I get you the offer that seller is looking for, I have no problem doing that. But it's establishing a relationship, getting to know them and saying, oh, I know you, Michelle. I've seen you. I met you before. Meet you. They kind of understand that you're kind of working the neighborhood. You're serious about your business and what you're doing. But that was one of the reasons I used to go to caravan, still do, is find somebody that's got some coming soon. And if there's nothing that can't allow you as a buyer's agent to do some prospecting around those communities that your buyers are looking for, which is, I call them, what do you want to call them? Love notes. Hey, Mr. Seller, I've got a client that loves your neighborhood, would love to move into this neighborhood. Have you thought about selling, or do you know of anyone that's thinking of selling? And you go from there. I mean, we have the data, we have the phone numbers, sometimes we have the emails, but I think that's something that you can offer your buyers when they come into your open house is, hey, by the way, I am working on your behalf. Besides waiting on the MLS, because they all think they have access to the MLS, which they do, Zillow, Redfin, I'm going to work on your behalf to get you inventory that's not on the market. Would you sign up with me? And here are the reasons, and this is what I do for you.
And I want to chime into that with the not on the market. When we go to our caravans, I mean, we're sharing once a week, with somebody that wasn't there, that told us, hey, they're looking for this for one of their buyers. Like, oh, by the way, hey, we talked to such and such. So, it's about networking, and it's just another one of those resources to help you hone your skills.
Yeah, we have in the Q&A section, there's a few things for you, Michelle. Also,
Okay.
Sonia is in there. Sonia is on our team here, and she goes to caravans quite often. And so if you want to pick her brain as well, she's in the Q&A section. So I know Michelle and Sonia know each other.
Oh yeah.
But yes, I agree. That is a great place, especially if you have a tough buyer need. I know, when I was way more heavily in production, um, back in the day, that's where a lot of deals got made, was not necessarily, you know, it was listed in the MLS, I showed it, and then, you're trying to work your magic from there. It's, you already had some sort of personal connection, or you maybe worked with that realtor in the past or something like that, or even meeting them at a caravan type place. That's where a lot of deals would really get done. Especially in the competitive markets. I mean, it's just those were the hustlers, and that's who, that's where the magic really happened on getting these deals done when you had these 20 offers. Because I'm starting to hear that again. I mean, all in all the regions, one of our agents just put in an offer on, he's in Sonoma, and yeah, it went 100K over, and the house was in the mid fives to start with. So it wasn't even, we're not talking a huge price point going 100K over. We're talking kind of a mid-range there. And so this is starting to definitely pick up again. So think about things like the caravans, and doing a little extra networking so that you can, get your buyers into those homes, just through relationships that you're building.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really important, Travis, to develop more self-discipline, more consistency, and master your time, your management and your time. But Caravan is a good place to go to if you have a purpose. It's not for filler, it's to find out and to hunt who's got
Yeah.
deals that I can potentially put my buyer into. It'd be nice if you went into one of those agents saying, hey, I've got multiple buyer contracts, contracts to represent them. What do you have coming? You know what I mean? Because they are holding a lot of the cards right now with inventory. I mean, they've got inventory, they can pretty much call the shots, but at the same time, they may have a property that's a bit overpriced, and they're not getting immediate offers on it. I mean, we get calls all the time saying, hey, what's going on in the market? I didn't get an offer in 10 days. Well, if you look at this segment of the market, it's days on market or longer, and your buyer, your seller has to be more open to getting an offer, and then we can work on it from there. But that's something that I would recommend, that you go to Caravan and you go to these networking groups and you try to meet the movers and the shakers in the industry. And there's no reason why you can't get some of that business by prospecting also. You can use the same kind of buyer presentation and add to the listing presentation, and maybe pick up anywhere from 4 to 8 listings a year. I mean, with the average prices that they are, I mean, it's a great opportunity right now. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Travis, because we get asked this a lot about buyers agents signing, their buyers up on contracts. Would it be easier to say, this is what I work on, Mr. Buyer. I work on a 3%, but I do whatever the selling agent is willing to pay me. We can negotiate that. I can negotiate down, instead of, I'll settle for 2% or 1.5%.
How are you positioning the agents?
What's your take on that?
You're talking about the amount you're putting first in your first agreement.
Yes.
Like I charge 2% for my service, or 2.5% for my service.
Correct. Yes.
So the current buyer rep agreement states that any overage could be credited either to the agent or the buyer. I mean, I think that there's an opportunity there if you are putting maybe a 2.5, and then you have a 2% co-op being paid over to you. You can say, look, anything more, I'm going to allow to be credited towards your closing costs. So I think there is an opportunity there to say that, yes, it's everything. The whole thing of this is commissions being negotiable, right? And they've always been negotiable. So if you need to put that in there, just say, you know, this is what I typically see in the marketplace right here, but should we get, you know, into contract and they are not offering the full amount to be credited towards what you owe me as for my services, then I will do a modification, and it's a modification of terms. That's the form you use to just adjust that commission back down. And do you have to come to me and ask if that's okay or sign off on it? No, I've never worked that way over here. We don't have a minimum or maximum. It's, you know what you're paying on the transaction fee, and you're free to negotiate your commission as you wish. So, yeah, you can have that conversation up front, especially if it's a fresh relationship. Maybe you're just doing the buyer rep agreement for that weekend showings, which I would recommend easing into these rather than, like I said last week, going for the jugular and saying exclusive for 6 months, you're with me no matter what. You know, that is going to get you shot down time and time again, I think, especially with someone who was maybe not referred to you. Maybe it's an online lead or something like that. You may need to ease into it a little bit, and as your relationship builds week after week of showing homes and making offers and things like that, you can put in a more solid buyer representation agreement with your client and state, look, this is why I charge the 2.5, or this is why I charge the 2, or whatever it is you're doing.
Mhm.
We had a
Do you
good
put
one
do
last
you put
week
a
on the buyer rep
time
agreement.
frame on that, or do you think we're gonna be at how per showing property, you're gonna have to get a buyer broker agreement signed? Because I've heard agents go, well, I get a year, and I'm going, well, if I'm a buyer, why is it gonna take me a year to buy a house?
Yeah,
I wanna buy now, you know,
Yeah.
maybe a 30-day max, but I think proving yourself would be, you know, the way to go. But what's your take on that?
on doing it per property or per weekend or this weekend showings, timeframes, things like that. I think a lot of
Yes.
it's going to depend on your relationship with your new client. You know, again, is this an old friend you've been working with? Is this a referral, or is this an internet lead who maybe, you know, you don't know how this is going to go? If it was that, I would probably ease into it with just this weekend's showings or something like that. I think a lot of people, you know, there's that initial round that you go with a new client for that weekend. Hey, we're going to go check out 6 homes, if there's even 6 homes for sale. And then, you know, the following weekend, or maybe even during the week, they're like, oh, a new one popped up. So then you might be a per property at that point. You're talking extra paperwork at this time. So maybe you want to do timeframes versus per properties, unless it's just onesie twosies. They have a very specific thing they're looking for, and you're maybe only looking at homes, you know, a few times a month, maybe, like they're serious, but they're waiting for that right one. That might be a per property then, in my opinion.
And
I see Andrew turned on his camera, so I feel like he has something to say.
Well, I got my coffee,
do
but
it.
that. So I've been wondering how open house is going to work too. I think it's going to be tough, but I think, you know, in whatever happens, I think that there is going to be a BRE needed. And so what we need to do as agents is look at what is our first impression, and our, you know, that we can initially upfront create some sort of value. And there's, you know, because I really think what this particular NAR change, this update, I think it helps us as buyers, as buyer agents, because if you can, it's now your client to lose. Like these, I would believe that these documents are going to be easy to cancel. I've heard the Washington, everyone's using Washington as the great example of how this is going to, you know, we're going to be okay. And if you talk to their buyer agents up there, they can, their buyers can be poached by other realtors very easily, even inside that contract. And so, you know, our relationship's only ever as strong as it really is. Doesn't matter about the paper or not. We don't want to be, don't rely on being a gatekeeper of entrance or exiting, for your client. That's not going to keep the value. But if we can develop, and this is something maybe we should talk about more, Travis, is, what is the first impression that we need to make? To gather that, to get someone to sign that contract is a huge thing, but then to also give them a confidence of, hey, you know what? Let's try this for 30 days. Let's see what happens in the next 30 days. I can do one off, but do you want to do one of these all the time and with different agents? Let's look at, 10 houses together. If it doesn't make any sense, you're out, no problem. I would make a small goal like that. So, because it's like, again, going into our current situation where a lot of people know, if you send a client to me or to escrow or anyone else, and they're like, oh, we're going to get back to that. And, that's coming, we're working on it. And if I don't give you a date, you're going to be worried. Next day, you're going to be like, hey, he didn't call me. 2 days later, oh, this lender sucks. He didn't call me, 3 days later. But if I say, hey, you know what? I'm working on this. I'm going to call you Friday before 10 a.m. Now, you might go through that whole week being like, dude, this guy sucks. Why does it take till Friday? But you have a goal in mind that I haven't let you down yet, And so that's the same thing as you can create an opportunity to at least make a small short-term relationship that's binding. Let's see 10 properties together. And in that scenario, what we'll learn within 10 properties is, one, I'll learn what you want in a house, and you're going to learn how I work and how I'm going to be able to protect you if we get one of those into a contract, because now they're like, you're partnering with them up front, but you're at the same time, you're talking about giving them an out. So they're not feeling like, handcuffed to you. Like, hey, we're just going to try this for 10 points. Makes it easier going, okay, a 10's a simple one, 5, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way to go about it. Doing one-off. I remember those one-offs for, like, what was that COVID document? Trying to get that thing handled. That was a nightmare, man.
Yeah,
And like,
that was
I
rough.
can't imagine doing that for buyer rep agreements.
Yeah, that was rough.
So what do you guys think, Travis, what do you guys think about developing a questionnaire when these people walk into an open house? Like, here's some questions, please fill them out. You can make notes about the house. Because I think, and now that things are changing, we need to ask more questions. How long they've been looking? Have they lost property? Did they make offers? Were they working with a previous agent? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you working with someone? Because a lot of agents forget to ask. I'm like, oh yeah, I am. He just told me to come over to the open house. So, I mean, just explaining the difference as to how you work. And like I said, having a hook as to like, hey, I'm definitely going out to prospect. If you sign up on my VIP list, I'm going to be out looking for properties in the community that you're looking at. And when I call you, you're going to sign a buyer broker agreement saying, based on this showing, you're going to sign this agreement. I just think we need to have some items and asking the right questions. What do you guys think?
I think that this is a great excuse, if you want to call it that, to add in some things like that, questionnaires at the open house, where you can dive a little deeper and just say, hey, I'm sure you've heard, about, NAR and things like that. Agency is changing a bit. I have a few questions for you before you enter into this house, at the request of the seller, or however you want to present it. But it is a pretty decent excuse to make a little shift in how you do your business. And truthfully, as much as I see a lot of agents, there's even, someone posted in the chat here that they're nervous to use the buyer rep agreement. Maybe they've not had good success with it in the past. I think as an industry, this is a chance for us to raise our level of professionalism on the buyer side. There's no reason why we shouldn't be putting these into into play if we're gonna go spend our time and money showing homes just to have, them put in an offer with a listing agent or something like that. I mean, I hear a lot of stories. I get, calls from our team. It happens everywhere where, they say they lost their buyer because they went with the listing agent or something like that. And this is a good excuse, reason, whatever you want to call it, to implement these buyer rep agreements and raise up your level of professionalism and not lose clients as much,
Yeah. Being worried about that BRE, it is interesting. One of the brokerages I worked at was a pretty heavy hitter, and they only worked with they did tons of Zillow leads, which we did a bunch of Zillow business. But we had a buyer meeting. It was about 45 minutes. The pitch was the sale pitch from at that point from the phone call from Zillow was set an appointment for this buyer rep meeting. And that would get handed to me, an appointment, meet these clients. And my whole job was build rapport and get them to sign the contract. If they didn't sign the contract, we didn't follow up ever. They were gone. It was just exit. And I just kept thinking, man, how much money are we leaving on the table here? And, we just kept moving with that thing. But, and so I learned to use it a little bit better. They had a couple things that were a little, I don't know, iffy, but that I didn't like, but everyone does everything a little different. But I had a buddy at a Keller Williams shop and, thinking about like, oh, this makes you nervous. He would get the buyer rep agreement signed and he would get the buyer to agree to pay his TC fee. And I think we were working together off and on some stuff for years. And I was like, dude, I just noticed that your buyer's paying your TC fee. And he goes, yeah, they always do. And I said, what? He says, yeah, they.
Yep.
Lost him?
Yeah.
Frozen.
You froze on us, Andrew. It's getting catchy.
I think of a lot of it's
He
just,
was so clueless of the idea that it could have been done a different way that there was no hesitation on his part. I just asked, and that someone told him to do it that way, so he did, and it worked out for him. Like I'm like, wow, man, you're $700 ahead of me no matter what. Every deal we do,
yeah.
like it's crazy, but
I
it's
think it's how you
interesting.
present it. A lot of it's just attitude, demeanor, your swag, all of that, and how you present this. I mean, I talked to an agent that was looking to maybe, come over to our team last week, and he has 16 active escrows. And he said every single person he puts in the buyer rep agreement and they agree to pay his TC fee. He said he doesn't get any pushback on it, hardly ever. So, and I think it's just how he presents this stuff, and he comes across very professional, and I'm working for you, this is how we're gonna do it. And he seems to earn their trust right up front, so I think a
I think
lot of it is
that's
just confidence and knowing how to present this buyer rep agreement and having your value proposition in place. I'm ABR certified. I do this. I've been in the area X amount of years. Even if you haven't really sold that many homes yet, shift that over to, how you handle clientele and your knowledge of the area and things like that.
And the 90 ways to serve you that we brought up, we'll make sure we get that to everybody here who's commented on the chat, or we can get it over to you, Travis, to share as well.
Hey, one last thing, Travis, everybody. I'm a big reader and I want to recommend this book. It's called The Ultimate Jim Rohn Library. There's 8 books out of there. Michelle kind of goes, I'm not a shiny object person. I'm more basic fundamentals. And Jim Rohn, if you don't know, trained Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, all of the big, Mike Ferry, all these guys. And he's excellent. He basically really breaks down your time management and your discipline. And he had a great line that I was listening to actually on the way to the office this morning. And he goes, we must discipline our setbacks, because man, are we talking about setbacks higher insurance, a little higher rate, but we're still going to do business. We're still going to do business, people. And
Yep.
it really is going to be a matter of your attitude, and people will pick up on that. I don't care, open house, wherever you meet them, that you're still working on their behalf to earn their trust, like Travis says, earning their trust and being a servant, serving them in the community, helping them with referrals and what have you, kind of forming the best team you can have, like with your lender, Andrew, everybody. Like I've got a whole team set up for you to try and make your experience as not as stressful, because everybody's a little stressed. The buyers are stressed that they're competing with so many offers, and it's just a matter of, hey, I'm going to get you through this, just be patient, and I'm going to have all these benefits for you that are going to help you get through this market. Because like I said, I think we're still in a good market for them to buy, be it condos or single family homes.
I agree. So, all right, well, I appreciate you guys coming on. It's right about 10 o'clock, so we should probably go ahead and wrap up. There are
Thank you.
some requests, Michelle, in
Yep.
chat and in the Q&A. We got both running now. So thanks everybody for joining in. If you missed the buyer representation agreement from last week, it is in our private Facebook group, recorded in there. Actually, probably gonna throw it up on YouTube as well, onto our channel, because that was a pretty good deep dive into the buyer rep agreement. But otherwise, we're gonna keep you as informed as much as we can as things unfold. Right now, business as usual, nothing has changed. There's no new laws, there's nothing, so just go out there, get business like you have been. I will reiterate, I would get familiar with the buyer representation agreement. Maybe you want to, come up with 10 things you do, for your value proposition, just so you can start working that through in your head, your elevator pitch, whatever you want to call it, and getting that in place just, preemptively. But more than likely, it's going to happen that this is going to become a requirement, and probably make it even easier for us to get these in place, because it'll be a requirement for everybody at the same time. So, don't stress it. Just dial in your value proposition, and I think we're all going to be okay. So, all
Sounds
right.
great, Travis. Thanks
Cool.
for having us.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
See you later, Alonzo. Bye.
Yeah.
God, you know how to